Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 27th part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 147, Help and Harm. Izuku didn't know what to think about this new nurse candidate that Suma suggested. Vera Nikitina was a 25-year-old Russian woman who came to Japan because she was having trouble finding work in the medical field. This was because she was adamant that she should be allowed to use her quirk, as it was very effective in healing people. And to her credit it was also very easy to see why no hospital would want her to use it. Vera's quirk was called reverse action. It allowed her to take an action she performed, and turn it into a reverse action. In other words, the action would do the opposite of what it was supposed to. In other words, she healed people by doing things that normally do the opposite of healing. So her medical tools weren't so much scalpels, bandages, and the like. Rather she used guns, hammers, and flamethrowers. Obviously, hospitals wouldn't want such things around, but given that his children were far more dangerous than any sort of conventional weapon, Izuku didn't care all too much, if it weren't for the fact that he was currently the target of assassination. Now, on one hand, the woman has undergone has a physic probe, so he was as sure as he could possibly be that she wasn't an assassin, but, in the off chance that she somehow managed to trick the test, he'd literally be giving the opportunity to fire lethal weapons at him. The only thing she'd have to do was not use her quirk on him while healing him. But Izuku did feel bad for the woman. If he denied her a job here, chances were slim she would find a job anywhere else, at least in the medical field. Which she was clearly desperate to do, considering she jumped countries to look for work. And Izuku's paranoia was battling his desire to help people. However, given that it's Izuku, one can guess which one out. And that's what led Izuku to be face to face with the woman in his office. Izuku was of course sitting at his desk, while Vera sat opposite to him. Vera was a very large woman, standing almost 7 feet tall, and with a body not dissimilar to Star and Stripes. She had long blonde hair going down her back, and bright green eyes that stared at him intensely. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Midoriya," Vera said. Her voice definitely had a thick Russian accent to it, although her Japanese was perfectly fine, although even without the accent you'd be able to tell she was a foreigner just by how loud and boisterous her voice was. "And thank you for coming in, Ms. Nikitina," Izuku said politely, as he nervously shuffled in his seat. "Now, I don't want to waste your time, so I'll get right to the point. I understand why you want to work here, but I want to know, why do you want to work in the medical field so much?" "Well, when I was a little girl, I got very, very sick once. It was terrible. I couldn't get out of bed for more than 10 minutes, I was in constant pain, and I was convinced I was going to die," Vera explained with a look of disdain. "This sickness lasted for a whole year. It was hell. Ever since then, I've always hated illness and sickness. So when I learned that I could get rid of illness and injuries by attacking them with weapons, I knew that this was my calling." "I see. Izuku nodded. "So you want to be a medic not because you want to heal people, but because you hate the concept of injuries and illness?" "Yes," Vera answered strongly with a nod. Izuku thought to himself. Well, that's a unique motivation. If they were gonna send an assassin, they probably would say something like they just want to heal children or something nice sounding. This feels too genuine to be fake. "Okay. Well, I know you're good at healing, but how clean do you keep your workplace and tools?" Izuku asked. "If you're hired here, you will be expected to keep everything as clean as possible." "Of course. Dirtiness brings illness. So I always make sure to keep everything as clean and tidy. Spotless. Here, take a look." Vera then pulled out her phone and showed Izuku a picture of an apartment, presumably hers. It was a very cheap place, but it was surprisingly clean given how places like that normally looked. "This my current home. Of course, money is tight so it's not very good, but I keep it in the best condition." "I see. That's very encouraging," Izuku noted as he looked her over, noting her very clean appearance. Her white shirt and jeans, while cheap, were very clean. Spotless even. Alright, well, how are you with children? Obviously, as this is a childcare facility, you will be dealing with children on a daily basis. Vera winced a bit. I do quite like children, however, the same cannot be said in reverse. I hate seeing sick and injured children, so I can't help myself, but to want to heal them with my quirk, this has gotten me in much trouble. I'm quite lucky I have not ended up in prison. Okay. Izuku was surprised anyone would say that during an interview, but somehow that made Izuku trust her more. Well, given the kind of children we house here, I don't think that will be much of an issue. Speaking of which, this is a very dangerous work environment. The children here have powerful and deadly quirks, which they can have a hard time keeping control of. Not to mention, I'm currently the target of a very powerful villain organization. Of course, we're doing everything we can to make things as safe as possible, but I cannot guarantee your physical or mental safety. Vera shrugged. That is fine. After all, if I don't get this job, I will be broke. I assure you being out of money is far more terrifying than quirks or villains. Fair enough. Izuku had heard similar lines from Hachiko. And I have to ask, do you have any combat skills or experience? It's not necessary given your job, but it would help, given the situation I'm in. I am not experienced in battle, but I'm trained in using various weapons. Vera explained. Although I dislike bringing harm on other people, I will if need be. That's more than good enough, I suppose, Izuku noted. He then went silent for a while, as he considered everything that was said. Alright, well, I think with all things considered, I have no reason not to hire you. Ahaha. This is great news. Thank you so much, kind child. I will serve you well. Vera sat up and raised her arms in celebration. Knock knock. Hello, father, may I come in? Asked Yonda on the opposite side of the door. It's important. Izuku immediately grew suspicious. We'll see. Come in. Yonda came in, and immediately Izuku was filled with panic, as he saw her forehead was bleeding. What happened? Before Izuku could finish his thought, or Yonda could get a word in, Vera took action. Vera shot up from her seat, grabbed that seat, and rushed over to Yonda in the blink of an eye. Smash! The soon-to-be nurse then raised the chair over her head and smashed it over Yonda's head, hard. Both Yonda and Izuku flinched at first, and their eyes widened with fear and surprise, as that was the normal reaction. However, swiftly this reaction faded, as Yonda realized a few things rather quickly. 1. She didn't feel like she'd been hit. Like at all. The impact had actually felt rather pleasant, like getting cool after working on a hot day, kind of pleasant. And the aching of her head had vanished completely. In the fact, the wound had vanished completely. Izuku calmed down quickly, as he realized he'd just seen her quirk in action. There we go. Good as new. Vera said, as she put down her chair, which was completely undamaged. Ha! Yonda was very much not expecting that. She had heard that Izuku was hiring a medic and thus decided to test her, by injuring herself. Well, that was interesting. Thank you? Yes, thank you very much for that, Izuku said after regaining his composure. I see your quirk is as effective as I've been told. Yonda, you're grounded for the rest of the day. I know that wasn't an accident. Izuku thought. Yeah, figured you'd see through that. Fair enough. Nice to meet you, new employee. Yonda said as she took her leave. Izuku sighed, as Yonda left. Be wary of her, she's problematic. Yes, you told me. Dangerous quirks, hard to control. Vera said. No, she's dangerous because of her personality. Although her quirk is to blame for that mostly. Izuku sighed. She is a little girl? How much harm can she do? Vera asked. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Achiko sighed. The last thing she wanted when coming out of the girls' locker room was to be confronted by Mineta. At the very least, he didn't attempt to enter while she changed. In fact, he'd been strangely restrained for a while now. No perving that they knew of, and a lot less creepy looks. Maybe that's why Achiko decided to entertain him this time and stop. She looked down and was shocked to see Mineta looking up at her with concern. And he was looking at her eyes instead of her bust. I just wanted to ask if you were okay after seeing that. Mineta asked sympathetically. After seeing, what? Achiko asked, confused at his question, causing Mineta's eyes to widen. You didn't see it. It's gone viral. Mineta quickly pulled out his phone and quickly showed a new video on YouTube. One of Midoriya and Bakugo's old classmates just spilled the beans. Achiko watched closely as the video started, showing Bakugo and Izuku in a classroom at their old middle school. Deku, you fucking pathetic waste of space. You think a shithead like you could ever get into UA? Past Bakugo shouted over the phone while exploding Izuku's desk while the green teen trembled in fear. Useless fuckers like you should just fucking kill yourselves so you don't waste our fucking air. And then the video abruptly stopped, as did all the sound in the hallway with it. Achiko stared at the phone for a while with wide eyes and tiny pupils. For a moment, she felt nothing. She was actually so angry that her mind couldn't comprehend it, and so she just blanked. But after a few moments, her mind caught up, and her body felt like it was on fire. Bakugo said he was gonna go train by Enya Forest, Mineta said, and without a word, Achiko stormed off. Once Achiko was gone, Mineta took out his phone and started texting Yanda. I'm guessing you saw the video? Yes, and I have to say, I'm not very pleased. Father is definitely going to dislike this quite a bit. Yanda responded. Hey, the only way I could get that Bakugo ass-kicking you wanted so badly was to get Uraraka riled up. And now she is. Mineta defended. I'm gonna link you to the cameras I have set up in the forest. You should be able to watch and record the battle from there. Very good. A bit sloppy, but overall a job well done. Yanda texted back. I'll text you once I'm done watching the battle. But first I'm going to make myself some popcorn. Mineta smirked as he read Yanda's last text. Let's see how smug you are in a little bit, you brat. He then started texting someone else. Fu, do you have the data? Yep. Fu texted back. And I've already planted the evidence. She's not getting away with this. Even Dad can only be so forgiving. Mineta's smile grew. It was time to teach that girl lesson. No one takes Mineta for a fool except Mineta himself. Chapter 148, Exploding and Exposing. Bakugo was gonna kill Mineta. That little shit had told him that someone challenged him to a fight in the forest, and so naturally, Bakugo went to beat the crap out of whoever was dumb enough to challenge him. This forest was far enough away from the city that no one would find or hear them. Unless they did something very big and very stupid. Bakugo was really excited to unleash all his pent-up aggression on some asshole, but when he got to the place Mineta marked on the map, no one was there. That fucker. I swear if this was some stupid prank, I'm gonna smear grape juice all over UA. Bakugo threatened as he stood in an empty opening. Smash. Suddenly, Uraraka shot out of the forest and kicked Bakugo in the face, with the full force of 30% full cowling. Bakugo went flying, smashing through multiple trees, as Uraraka flipped through the air and landed on her feet and hand. Achiko took a few seconds to get to her feet as she breathed in deeply. Both because of the absolute rage she was experiencing and because of the strain OFA was putting on her body. She could only use about 23% of one for all safely at the moment, anymore and it would start taking a toll on her body. But right now, she couldn't care less. All the pain was being drowned out by fury, and the only thing she cared about was making sure Bakugo paid for what he'd done. Meanwhile, with Bakugo, he was currently laying in a pile of downed trees, trying to figure out what just happened in his heavily dazed state, while the side of his head bled onto the trees. Ack! Ack. Bakugo forced himself up. The entire forest looked like it was spinning and it was blurry as hell. So naturally, he didn't have much of a way to defend himself when Achiko dived down from the sky with a tree. Slam! The tree crashed into Bakugo, smashing him back down as Achiko landed on the ground with the tree in her hands. Slam! 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 Uraraka picked up the tree and started furiously smashing it into the dazed and confused Bakugo half a dozen times before. Boom! Bakugo had finally gotten his act together and unleashed a massive explosion as Achiko brought down the tree again, utterly destroying it. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr moving so fast that the boy had no time to react before she started pounding his face in with her fist as fast and hard as she could. Yet evil piece of shit. How dare ya tell Deku to kill himself? Ya hateful little mutt. Kaboom! Ack! Achiko shouted in pain, as Bakugo blasted her off of him, forcing her to land a few feet away from him. As Achiko picked herself up, Bakugo did too, but with far more difficulty. His face was bloody and swollen, and his eyes were wide with fear. Not fear of Achiko, but of something far more terrifying. What the fuck did you just say? Bakugo shouted out, feeling his heartbeat at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and his body emitting more and more sweat. Where the fuck did you hear that? It's all over the internet. Someone snitched on ya, and now everyone knows what a bastard you are. Achiko shouted at him, before immediately launching herself at the already injured boy. Bakugo just stared at her with wide eyes, before she crashed into him, kneeing him in the face. The two of them went flying forward, with Achiko's knee in Bakugo's face the whole time, as Bakugo smashed through even more trees. Eventually, their momentum stopped, and Bakugo hit the ground on his back, causing Achiko to roll forward onto the ground. Achiko tumbled across the ground before getting onto her knees. She tried to stand up, but she was suddenly struck with intense pain all across her body. Aha! Uraraka crumpled to the ground and coughed up blood. Gah! Damn net! Both of them were now on the ground, unable to fight, not that Bakugo would even if he was in any condition to. Because it was over. The one thing that even he was genuinely ashamed of, got out into the public. His dream was over, and it really was his own fault. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX I'm not sure I should let Mineta upload this. It'll show father how pathetic Bakugo is, but is it worth it? As she was thinking over her plan of action, suddenly, her head started to hurt intensely, and then everything went black. When she came to, her head was still pounding and her vision was blurry. Oh. What the heck? Yonda thought as she clutched her head, and her vision started returning to normal. And when she could finally see again, she realized she was still sitting at her desk, looking at her computer. But instead of looking at a live feed of Ochako and Bakugo, she was looking at a YouTube channel. To be specific, she was looking at the same YouTube channel that released the fake video about Bakugo telling her father to kill himself, except it seemed like another video had been uploaded. This one titled, King Explosion Murder. This was the clip that Mineta had taken, of Bakugo's prototype hero name. She had specifically asked for this, because it was so embarrassing, and she knew people would make fun of him for it forever. But there was something else that was very, very wrong about this situation. And it seemed that this was somehow her YouTube channel, as she now had control of it, and was seemingly about to publish another video, this one of Ochako and Bakugo fighting. Yonda's eyes whitened with fear. Oh crap. First of all, she never meant to upload any of the videos herself. Izuku had access to her computer's history and could look at anything she did on the internet. She'd assumed that the YouTube channel had belonged to Minty when it was uploaded, as she had no memory of uploading any of these videos. Second, she had no intention of uploading the Ochako and Bakugo fight, as it would get Ochako in big trouble. She didn't know how she was going to show it to Izuku, but it wasn't like this. Yonda quickly looked for a way to cancel this, while she frantically tried to get her thoughts together. How did this happen? Why did I suddenly go unconscious? Crap. 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 Maybe I can fix this before Father Nodic. Slam. Izuku suddenly slammed her door open and fixed a glare on the young girl, causing her to freeze. The green teen stared at Yanda's computer before glaring at the young girl with a mix of fury and disappointment. Ah, crap baskets. Yanda thought. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Not much else she could do, seeing as she was now grounded for a month. All of her electronics had been taken away, and she was forbidden from leaving her room for 2 weeks, with the only exception to that rule being her mandatory community service. She would also not be receiving any allowance for 3 months. And there was an additional, extra punishment that would be carried out later. So now, all she could do was wait for him. Knock, knock, knock. Come in. Yanda said, her voice filled with barely hidden contempt. And that's when Fu and AKA came in. Well, it looks like evil has been defeated once again. Ah ha ha ha. AKA laughed in her head. I knew you two were responsible for this. Yanda forced on a smile and tried to remain as calm as usual. Because being angry showed a lack of control. And like hell, she would admit to losing control. Unfortunately, her eye twitching and her balled-up fist kind of gave it away. I'm guessing Mineta was also working with you. Which is why the data drive I had has gone missing? Yanda asked, already knowing the answer, getting a nod in return. Well, would you mind at least telling me how you did all this? Well, it started a while ago. When I saw a weird super chat on Kiba's stream, I decided to investigate more. Fu explained. Turns out, it was a hidden cry for help from Mineta. So after I contacted him, he explained everything. The blackmail, what you wanted to do to Bakugo. And he begged me to get the data back and free him from you. Of course, you had to be punished for your wickedness, so Fu came up with a plan. AKA cackled. While you were sleeping, we inserted a little piece of me inside you, and then Mineta sent us the videos, and I uploaded them with your body, on your computer. So that's why I blacked out. Yanda grimaced. Could you at least take yourself out of me now? We already did, couldn't leave any evidence after all. Fu explained. Anyway, after all, that was done, I just had to tell Dad that I saw you uploading a video, and once he saw the video about Bakugo, he put 2 and 2 together. Fortunately, Mineta should have already released a video showing that the Bakugo video was fake, and that video about Achiko and Bakugo was never released, so they won't get in any trouble. And how are they going to explain why they're both injured? Yanda asked. Mineta claimed they were attacked by a villain, and after realizing they were tricked, they were smart enough not to say otherwise. Fu continued. And so, everything went according to plan. Oof. Yanda huffed, before giving a mock slow clap. Well done. It seems you've bested me this time. But next time, I won't be so reckless and overconfident. No matter how many times you try, we will put a stop to your evil ways. Your arrogance will be your doom. Ah ha 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 ha. AKA laughed. In other words, bring it on. Fu challenged. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. 2 days later, Yanda was sitting in her room, reading a history book. What she could read now was filtered, and had to be brought to her by others. Knock knock knock. It's me. Izuku said to her mentally. Come in. Yanda sighed, as she got ready to give her practiced apology for her action. Izuku came in, and in deadly Yanda's mind went blank. Because in his arm, was an animal carrier, containing a small pink cat. This is the second part of your punishment. Izuku explained, as he closed the door, and set the carrier on the floor, before opening it and releasing the cat. I figured perhaps maybe you had a little too much free time, so, I got you a cat. You will be required to keep them fed, happy, and healthy, and if you don't you will be punished, understood? Yanda wanted to object, however, she knew very well where she stood. Fu and aka had incriminated her to make what she was doing seem even worse than it already was, and due to her rep, she couldn't make an argument that she'd been framed. In other words, she was in no place to bargain. Yes, father, I understand. Meow. The cat proceeded to walk towards Yanda and looked at her curiously. Yanda sighed and pouted at the cat. This was going to eat up a lot of her time. Hopefully, this will help show you how to be compassionate, Izuku said before sighing. But first, what are you going to name her? Yanda picked up the cat and took a good look at her. How about Esper? Yes, that is a fine name, if I do say so myself. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Bakugo lay in Recovery Girl's medical room and just stared at the ceiling. The video was fake. As far as everyone was concerned, Bakugo Katsuki had never told Izuku Midoriya to kill himself, but he did. He wasn't proud of it, but he did. Bakugo had seen the comments on that video before it was debunked and taken down. The people wanted his head on a pike. Hell, Ochako tried to put his head on a pike, he was pretty sure. Now there was no doubt, if it got out that he really did that, it would be the end of it. And he would have no one to blame but himself. He really didn't know what possessed him to say those words. Take a swan dive off the roof. He'd been pissed off, more than normally, sure, but really he didn't mean that in the slightest, and had regretted it soon after saying it. Bakugo always threatened to kill people, but everyone knew he never meant that, and yet, literally everyone believed that video. No one thought it was out of character for him to say something that horrible. Everyone believed he would do that, even his own parents admitted to thinking the video was real at first. He wanted to be angry about that, but he actually had said that. So technically, he was the kind of person to say that. And that frightened him a little. Because people who'd done things like that had actually gotten people killed. What if Deku had actually taken his own life? This forced Bakugo to reflect on everything that had happened. Maybe, just maybe, he was the asshole here. Maybe all the people who said he was a complete and total jackass, and that everyone hated him, had a point. Maybe it was time to re-evaluate his approach to life. Chapter 149, Chaos Control. Project Seed. Hello. My name is Uchibara. I am a scientist working at the Midoriya Foundation, under my girlfriend, Miru Jiken. And I am in charge of Project Seed. Project Seed is the experimentation of chaos energy's effect on plant life, via gemstone gardening. The process is simple. I am going to grow various plants, with fractals placed underneath them, where their roots will grow. These plants will include a sakura tree, a rose, a Venus flytrap, and a cactus. These will of course be grown in the lab's greenhouse experimentation chamber. I will record my results once something significant has popped up. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Well, that was faster than expected. It's only been 3 days, but already there have been significant results. Both the sakura tree and cactus have started growing far faster than they should. The cactus is almost fully grown, and the tree is halfway there, but no petals have grown. As for the rose and flytrap, both of them had appeared to make no progress. So I decided to check on the seeds, only to find that they seem to have exploded. With these results, I've come to a hypothesis. Handling chaos energy requires a large amount of mass. Hence the tree and cactus grow at accelerated rates. It's likely they used energy from the fractal in order to hasten their growth, in order to survive. However, the rose and flytrap didn't have the ability to grow at that rate naturally, and thus couldn't endure the energy strain. It's also possible that it has to do with how each plant material handles chaos energy. I've heard, for example, that cacti are very good at absorbing radiation. This could be why it adapted so well, despite not being as big as the tree. I'm going to add some more kinds of plants of various sizes to see if my hypothesis proves correct. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Firstly, I managed to confirm my last hypothesis. Both the average size of the subject when fully grown and the materials from which the subject is made of are very important factors in deciding if a plant can survive chaos energy infusion. Notably, plants that require large amounts of sunlight seem to do the best. The same trend of accelerated growth or explosions. Some plants manage to grow past the seed stage before exploding, but not very much. As for the first two plants, the sakura tree has had to be relocated to our outdoor facility. For two reasons. Firstly, it's continued its accelerated growth rate. It's almost double the size of a normal sakura tree. Secondly, would be its unique mutation. Normally, the cherry blossoms on a sakura tree are pink, however, the flowers on this tree have grown in a variety of colors and are already fully bloomed. But those colors aren't just for show. Each flower, while they are completely normal when still attached to the tree, when they separate from the tree and touch non-plant-based lifeform, have a variety of effects. All of which I have tested on various lab animals, those poor souls. The red flowers, upon contact, rapidly heated up before exploding. The explosion was rather small. It didn't even immediately kill the rat we tested it on, although it did die later from its injuries. The yellow flowers cause whatever they touch to become magnetic for about 5 minutes. The magnetic force is quite weak, so making contact with this flower is mostly harmless. The green flowers will cause whoever they touch to experience feelings of intense nausea and dizziness. The blue flowers will cause their victims to lose gravity for about 3 minutes. The purple flowers cause drowsiness. The white flowers seem to pacify whomever they touch, to the point where they have no desire to harm anyone. Note, these could be especially useful later on. I will ask Mai to contact Mr. Midoriya about these later. Lastly, the black flowers are rather interesting. When they come in contact with a living thing, they start to eat away at it. Like acid, but not at the same time. It's like it deletes living matter it comes into contact with. However, while this sounds incredibly dangerous, the process is extremely slow. So much so that none of the test animals actually died or were even significantly injured during the tests. Although I have noted that the little bits of them that were eaten away by the flower do not heal. I'd hate to think of what would happen if someone were to consume one of these. As you can tell, it's very problematic for these to just be falling off the tree and blowing into the wind. As such, it will be moved to a special location, should it grow too big for this one. Now as for the cactus, it's completely transformed into a steel-like substance. It's very similar to steel in both form and function, but upon closer analysis, it's still formed of plant cells. I would say with this, that Mai's conclusion that chaos energy is behind quirks is all but proven. As these plants have, undeniably obtained quirks. This is a very exciting development, as no plant life has ever been found to have quirks until now. And I think I understand why. It's been shown that the vast majority of plant life is not suited to absorb chaos energy in the same way that animals and humans are. Even the plants that were able to handle the energy only managed to obtain it after being directly rooted to a fractal. Perhaps the reason there are fewer animals with quirks than humans is because humans simply have an easier time absorbing and processing chaos energy. I'll have to inform Mai about this. There's still so much to test. So much left unknown. I really have to thank Mai and Mr. Midoriya for this opportunity. This is some of the most exciting work I've done in my life. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. I've made another major discovery. But before that, I want to make a quick update on the first two test subjects. The cactus has stopped growing and is now about 10 feet tall and 2 feet wide. Its toughness surpasses steel, and it is an exceedingly strong material. Resistant to heat, cold, and pretty much everything you can think of, except for some reason, it has a weakness to focused points. Things like spikes, bullets, or piercing weapons are rather effective against metal. You can also cut off pieces of this metal cactus, and not only will it remain in its metal state, but the cactus will even grow back what was cut off, although this is a very slow process. As for the tree, it's currently at 45 feet and still growing, although the rate of growth seems to slow the bigger it gets. This seems to be a common occurrence. The effects of the flowers also seem to be increasing in power as it grows. This could become concerning later on. But enough about that for now. I have something absolutely groundbreaking. So I decided to plant several more sakura trees and cacti, to see if they would gain similar quirks to the first two test subjects. But they didn't gain similar quirks, they gained the exact same quirks. All of them. This could mean that plants will always gain the same quirk, depending on the type. This could mean we could farm all new kinds of materials, and bring forth so many new possibilities. I'm going to need to expand our research team before I can continue with this, but I'm excited to say, Project Seed is a massive success. I think I'll see if I can get my sisters and mother involved in this project. It does seem a little wrong to try and get my family into high positions like this, but they're the only people I know who can help me with this. Hopefully I can convince them. Project Chaos Control. This is my Jiken, head scientist of the Midoriya Foundation Science Division. And today I start one of the most important projects in my life. Project Chaos Control. Project Chaos Control revolves around learning about chaos energy and how to utilize it. And first things first, I need to find out how to obtain chaos energy. Currently, the only way we can obtain chaos energy is by draining it from Jin, or by stabbing a Grim, although that may be dangerous, meaning we have no reliable way of obtaining chaos energy. If we lose Jin, we no longer have access to chaos energy, which is unacceptable. So that begs the question, where can we find more chaos energy? The answer, people. After doing some extensive tests on myself, I figured out how chaos energy within a person sustains itself. Basically, humans and animals can convert things into chaos energy. These things mainly being food and water. Plants are also capable of this, converting sunlight into chaos energy. Now obviously, I can't just stab people and drain their chaos energy, so I need to find another way to get it. And well, I have a theory, given that people are born with the potential for quirks, it's like that chaos energy can be found within a human, male reproductive fluids. This is not gonna, but fun to explain to my boss. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Alright. Good news. After obtaining a couple gallons of the white stuff, I figured out that there is in fact chaos energy located in it. So I didn't have to explain this to my boss for nothing. Bad news though, it's a very small amount, and there's no way to replenish it once we've drained it. But that doesn't mean we've hit a dead end. For now, I'll have to put this part of the project to the side. Or rather I'll have to separate this from Project Chaos Control. We'll call it Project Chaos Creation. But not for long. You see, I have 2 more employees coming in soon. They should be able to help. Chapter 150, Daddy Issues. Chol sighed and set the paperwork to the side of her desk, before looking over to Izuku, who was staring down at his paperwork, without doing any, as if in a trance. Sir, is everything okay? Ha? Izuku suddenly snapped out of his trance and looked up at her. Yeah, it's just, I have to prepare for some new arrivals that are complicated. Chol raised an eyebrow. I don't recall DOC sending us any new children. Did they just give a notice? Izuku shook his head. No. It's not DOC. For once I wish it was just them springing things on me with no notice. Because this is, somehow worse. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Flashing back to that night, Izuku was lying in bed and just answered to phone to his unwanted caller. Izuku, it's been a long time. His father said, in his gravelly voice, that sounded like he smoked 1,000,000 cigarettes. Not long enough, Izuku said with perhaps the most venom in his voice he'd ever had. What on earth could you possibly be calling me about? I hope you don't think I'm going to give you any money. No. Come on, I'm not that stupid. His father laughed. No, instead, I'm gonna give you something for once. Izuku raised an eyebrow in confusion. What on earth could his deadbeat dad want to give him? What is it? Huh, surprised you didn't hang up on me yet. His father said, before explaining. So funny story, after I left your mother and you, I started doing my thing. And I found this lady who had a quirk that gave her 3 separate bodies, so naturally, I got her bed and well, I'm sure you're smart enough to put the pieces together. May I remind you that Mom and you aren't officially divorced? Izuku said bitterly. And whose fault is that? I told your mother I didn't want her anymore, and she still refuses to cooperate with me. His father scoffed. But back to what I was saying, so I did my thing, but I got so excited, I forgot to wear any protection. Izuku's eyes widened. What? Surprised you have half-sisters, his father laughed. 3 of them. Much to my dismay. Izuku was stunned into silence. He had sisters. 3 of them. Of course, he'd long since gotten used to his family expanding, but this was something different. So yeah, at first I was like shit, gotta get the hell out of here, but the woman wasn't as easy to leave as your mother, mostly because she was just that amazing in the sack. His father chuckled, before sighing. So yeah, I ended up sticking around, and we raised the girls for about 7 years. 7 years? Izuku gasped, his face contorting in pure shock. He had sisters for 7 years and didn't know. But you see, as it turns out, neither of us really wants to keep them. So, yeah, we need to get rid of them. His father said casually, as if he was getting rid of a broken TV. I was gonna give them over to an orphanage, but that's a whole process. But then I remembered, wait a minute, I have a son who takes care of children for a living. Why not just give them to him? There were very few people that Izuku genuinely hated. But his father was definitely on that list. Right under Overhaul, and whoever was leading the MLA. So what do you say? They're not super dangerous or anything, but they are your sisters. His father asked. You say that as if family means anything to you, Izuku growled, before regaining his composure. But you already know my answer, don't you? I had a hunch, but I was worried maybe you'd become less of an overwhelming sap after everything you've been through. His father laughed. But it's nice to know you're still the same even after all this time. I guess refusing to change is the one thing you got from me. I've changed plenty, I didn't get a single thing from you. Izuku snapped. Just tell me when you want to bring them here? Give me about a week. His father estimated. Alright, and bring divorce papers, I'll take care of Mom and the cost, just give me your signature, Izuku demanded. Fine, good luck with your mother, you're gonna need it. His father said, before ending the call. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. So you have sisters? Chol summarized Izuku's story. 3 of them. Izuku sighed, rubbing his temples. And I'm gonna have to see my father again to get them. It's weird to think that those girls will be aunts, huh? Chol mused. I don't even want to think about it. Izuku groaned. And not to mention those girls have been raised by that man up till now. Ugh. Well, look on the bright side, they're only 7. You've got plenty of time to get whatever your father put in their heads out. Yeah, I guess. Izuku sighed. When are things going to be simpler? Simpler? Probably never, given how you are. Chol said honestly. Easier? Eventually. Whenever you start something, it's going to be hard. Especially when it's a business. But if you do everything right, and get just enough luck, it'll be smooth sailing, for the most part. Granted, life doesn't decide to throw a curveball that destroys your entire life. Izuku let out an even deeper sigh. Putting that aside, I'm going to need to tell the kids. Particularly, the ones who think of me as their father, and I'm going to have to tell Mom. Chol cringed internally and was thankful that the most family drama she had to deal with was when her sister did something particularly stupid, that and the whole government tried to steal her daughter thing. Well, better get this over with. Izuku pulled out his phone. I'm going to go outside. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Izuku could feel his heart pounding, and sweat going down his palm, as he held up his phone to his ear. This was going to hurt. A lot. Probably not the most painful or stressful experience he'd had in his life, or in the past year, but that didn't make it any easier. Hello? Izuku? Is everything alright? His mother asked as she picked up the phone. You didn't collapse again, did you? Are you eating okay? Are the kids alright? You're making sure to take breaks, right? I'm fine, Mom, it's just, are you sitting down? Izuku asked. Izuku, what's going on? Inko asked cautiously, and he could hear her holding her breath. Izuku took a deep breath and decided to just rip off the band-aid. Dad had more kids, with another woman, and he's handing them off to me. And after that, silence. For minutes, on minutes, nothing but silence. Silence and thick tension. After what felt like an eternity, his mother spoke again. I'm sorry, Izuku, I think I need some time to myself. That's okay. Just call me when you're ready. Izuku asked her. I love you. I love you too, baby. Bye. And with that, Inko hung up. Izuku let out the breath he'd been holding and slouched. At least he didn't have to hear her cry, although he knew she'd be doing that soon enough. He looked down at his phone and sighed. I didn't even talk to her about the divorce papers, nothing I can do about it now. I just need to hope she takes this well. Chapter 151, The Girls of Hell. In the city, a small green car is driving through the city, with 4 particular people inside it. The driver was one Hisashi Midoriya, a large man with a green dragon head, but an otherwise normal body. He had on a pair of dirty tattered jeans, and a dirty tank top. In the back, his 3 daughters, all of them had green hair, and a pair of green dog ears and were wearing the same black shirt and skirt combo with red shoes. Despite them mainly looking the same, one could tell the difference between them by their expressions. The one all the way to the left was currently scowling and seemingly trying to stare Hisashi to death. This was Yaba. Next to her was a girl with a rather bored expression, looking down reading a book. She also had the only real physical differentiator, that being the snake coming out of her behind like a tail, which was currently wrapped around her waist. This was G. And the last one was looking down at her legs with a somber expression, sniffling slightly. This was Inu. The car ride had been silent for hours, as everyone knew what was happening there. The girls were being left by their parents. They'd been told that they were being given away some time ago, and each of them had reacted in their own, unique way. But even after packing their stuff, they didn't have a lot, they still didn't know one thing. Can you at least tell us where we're going, you fucking bastard? Yaba spat at her father. It should be pretty obvious, sis, we're going to an orphanage. G scoffed, not looking up from her book. Actually, not quite, Hisashi said, still looking at the road, while the 3 girls looked at him curiously. I decided to throw you girls a bone, and send you to live with your brother. Our what? All 3 girls shouted in shock. We have a brother. Inu asked, her eyes wide like dinner plates. What the hell? Where the fuck has he been? Yaba shouted. I am curious about why we've never heard of him before, G asked thoughtfully. Well, I never really had any reason to bring him up. Hisashi shrugged. He's your half-brother I had with my first wife. Technically only wife, but that's whatever. And he's done rather well for himself. Unfortunately, he hates me, so I can't really ask him for a lot of favors. But he's also a bit of a sap, so I was able to convince him to take you 3 in. He's actually a lot like Inu. Just bigger and more of a nerd. Well, if he's like Inu, then I guess we don't need to worry, G said nonchalantly. I doubt anyone's as nice as our Inu, but if he's half as nice I guess that's good, Yaba smirked. Meanwhile, Inu just blushed intensely and looked down. Guys, stoop. But anyway, I think you'll like living with him. Like I said, he's done very well for himself. Hisashi told them. Great, we might own more than 2 sets of clothes. Yaba spat. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Hisashi arrived at a gate in front of a forest. Yaba raised an eyebrow. Hey old man, pretty sure we're not supposed to go here. Funny, considering you don't know where you're going. Hisashi countered. And trust me, we're meant to be here. And then, the gate swung open, much to the girls' surprise, and they drove in. I thought you said we were going to live with our brother? Ji asked cautiously, as she looked around at the surrounding forest. You are, Hisashi answered casually. Then why the fuck are we in a forest? Yaba asked. This is your brother's property. Hisashi sighed, as he was forced to explain himself. Basically, he owns this forest and everything in it. So naturally, he lives in the center of it. He owns the whole forest. The three of them shouted out in shock. Yeah, now quiet down, Hisashi told them, getting annoyed by all the questions. We're almost there. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX gates just in front of the Midoriya building and looked at the massive house in shock and awe. That's the rich for ya. Never fail to be flashy as hell, Hisashi said, as the gates opened up and he drove in. All the girls were still too stunned to speak, as they arrived at their destination. The car finally came to a stop around the tree, and they could all see Izuku standing on the stairs to the house, with Sai by his side. Alright, get out, Hisashi instructed. We're here. G nudged Inu, snapping her out of her shock. Sis, open the door. Sorry. Inu apologized for being slow, before opening the car door. The three girls shuffled out of the car and looked up at Izuku, who approached them with a smile, making sure not to look at his father. You three must be my sisters. It's nice to finally meet you all. I'm Izuku. Hi. Inu gave a polite bow to her brother. My name is Inu. Please, take good care of us, big brother. Nice to meet you, brother. G gave a small bow to Izuku. I'm G. I'm Yaba. What's with the weird demon robe? Yaba asked as she walked up to Izuku and started tugging at his robe to get a better look. Oh, this is just special armor to keep myself safe in case anything happens, Izuku explained, before looking up at his father, who was hurriedly pulling out the couple bags the girls had from the trunk of his car. Did you bring it? Yeah, I have the papers. Hisashi pulled an envelope from his pocket and threw it at Izuku, but Sai caught it before it got close. Good luck with your mother. Get off my property, Izuku ordered bluntly. Fine. Goodbye everyone, may we never meet again. Hisashi said, as went into his car, before driving away. Inu gave her father's car a sad look as it drove off. She didn't seem to care, and Yaba gave her father the finger as he left. Well, they seem to have pretty distinctive personalities, Izuku thought before he went over to the girls. Well, now that he's gone, I guess I should take you to your room. Now, do you want to share a room or have separate rooms? Share, the girls said simultaneously. I see. Guess you don't like to be separated. Izuku chuckled awkwardly. You're damn right. The Cerberus sisters stay together, Yaba said, before high-fiving her two sisters. Cerberus sisters? It was then that Izuku took special notice of their ears and G's tail. I see. So you three have a quirk that makes you like the famous three-headed dog. Aha! Our quirk is called Cerberus. It gives us super strength, speed, and fire breath, and we can't die, Yaba boasted. The closer we get to each other, the stronger our powers are, G explained. But if we get too far apart, our quirk will be useless, Inu admitted shyly. I see. That's a really cool quirk. And unique too. Izuku's eyes lit up. He always loved hearing about new and interesting quirks. The girls seemed to like hearing that. Yaba confidently smiled, G gave a sly smirk, and Inu gave a small smile. But how good are you at controlling your fire breath? Izuku asked them. Do you think you need one of our fireproof rooms? Yes, please. Inu nodded. Why do you have fireproof rooms? Yaba asked curiously. By the way, what kind of place is this? G asked, looking past him at the house, before looking at Sai. And who's this? My name is Sai Biora. Sai introduced herself with a bow. I am the head guard of the Midoriya Foundation. The Midoriya Foundation? G gave her brother a curious look. Right, I'm guessing that man didn't tell you a lot about me, so you must be confused, Izuku said. I'll explain everything as we walk to your room. Sai, could you get their bags? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. The five of them walked through the halls, with Sai in the back carrying all their bags on one long sword. So the Midoriya Foundation is, for the most part, a childcare facility. Specifically, we care for OPC. Izuku started. What's an OPC? Ino asked, tilting her head in an adorable manner. It stands for overly powerful children, Izuku explained. They're basically children whose quirks are too uncontrollable or dangerous for them to live normally among other people. So this is an orphanage for powerful kids? G summarized. Izuku shook his head. Not an orphanage. All the children here are officially adopted by me. All the girls' eyes widened once more. Wait! Yaba shouted. So that means Dash. Daddy! Suddenly, Shiruko came running down the hall. Daddy! I ran out of O. Who are they? Once again, the girls were staring wide-eyed, looking at Shiruko like she was an alien. Oh, these are my sisters. Izuku introduced. You have sisters? Now it was Shiruko's turn to be shocked, looking back at the girls with the same expression they were looking at her with. Yeah, I just learned about them now. It's a long story, but just treat them like everyone else, okay? Izuku asked her. Shiruko nodded but couldn't help but continue looking at the three girls, who continued looking at her. Shiruko, we can talk later, for now, I need to take care of these three, Izuku told her, as he grabbed one of his sister's hands and tugged them along. Don't worry, I won't take long, okay? Okay. Shiruko nodded, before running off to go tell as many people as possible about this. With that done, the five continued trudging along, but now the girls' wide-eyed gazes were locked onto Izuku. You're a dad? All three of them asked at the same time. Izuku sighed. Yes. A lot of these kids see me as their father since I'm taking care of them, and I don't mind being their father. These kids have had it pretty rough for the most part, so if they want me to be their father, then that's just what I'll do. Wow. Inu looked up at her brother with wide adoring eyes. So how many kids do you have? G asked. 21, Izuku answered, as he readied himself for another surprised reaction. However, at this point, the girls were getting used to it and just looked at him shocked. You have 21 kids with super dangerous and hard to control quirks? G asked. That sounds like a poor choice of job, brother. It has its downsides. But it has plenty of upsides. Izuku said, gesturing to everything around him. But it's not really about that. The point is, someone needed to help these children, and I was the only one willing to step up. So I did, and I don't regret it one bit. Inu continued to look at her brother with admiration in her eyes. So cool. Wait, how did you get so rich taking care of a bunch of kids? Yaba asked. If parenting came with a paycheck, the old man wouldn't have let us go. Well, like I said, they're not normal children. They're OPCS. Izuku explained. Because of how dangerous O.P.C.S are, the government steps in whenever they're involved. It's important to them that O.P.C.S are safe and live good lives, and as the person taking care of them, the government pays me quite a lot of money. Money which I used to help earn more money. and thus I got all this. Wow. So you're like, rich? Yaba asked. Izuku chuckled at her wonder and innocence. Yes, I am. Ah, here we are. They had finally arrived at the girl's new room. Seeing as it was a shared room, it was one of the bigger rooms in the house. Izuku opened the door, the girls rushed into the room, and once again their eyes were filled with wonder. Sweet, our own TV. Yaba shouted as she ran towards the TV at the center of the room. Finally some proper beds. G exclaimed as she looked at the 3 beds in the room. We have a window. Inu gasped as she ran over to it and smiled. It looks so pretty outside. Izuku and Sai stepped in, and Sai set their bags down on the ground. Thank you, Sai. Now can you please give us some space? Of course, sir. Sai bowed, before taking her leave, closing the door behind her. Izuku then turned back to his sisters, who were still admiring their new room. Girls, can I speak to you for a second? The 3 turned towards him, and gave each other worried looks, as Izuku's tone didn't indicate anything good. Okay. So, I did agree to take you 3 in. But that was mostly to make sure that man didn't lead you anywhere shady. Izuku explained seriously, kneeling down to talk to them face to face. But, this place is not as safe as I'd like. Like I said, the kids here, while they are great kids, are dangerous, and they regularly destroy parts of the house and a lot of the forest, and they can hurt you or even kill you if you're not careful, even if you have a strong quirk. I'm also being targeted by a very powerful evil organization, who's attacked this place before, and even sent assassins. I'm doing everything I can to increase the security of this place. But even then, there's still a risk we'll be attacked. You 3 aren't OPCS. So you don't have to be here. You don't have to be at risk. But at the same time, you are my family, and I don't want to push you away. So I leave the choice up to you. Do you want to stay here, or go somewhere safer? I promise no matter what you choose, I'll do my absolute best to make sure you have a good life. The 3 of them just looked at him for a second, before looking at each other, and nodding. They looked back at Izuku, and Yaba crossed her arms and smirked. Like hell, we're leaving. This place seems awesome, bro. Thank you for your concern, brother, but the Cerberus sisters don't back down from a challenge. G smirked as well. I really don't want to leave you, big brother. I want to stay a help. Inu gave Izuku a determined look. Long as you keep us fed, and put a roof on our heads, we'll make sure anyone coming at you is good as dead. Yaba proclaimed as she punched her palm for effect. Nice rhyming, sis, but try not to actually kill anyone. We'll be a lot less powerful if you're stuck in jail. G said, with a deadpan expression. Izuku smiled down at them, feeling his heart warming just a bit. Thank you. I'll do my best to make sure you're happy. With that, Izuku stood up and made his way toward the door. Well, I've got some work to get done. Sorry, I couldn't spend more time with you, but I have to do what I have to do. But feel free to call me if you need anything. Oh, and you can decorate your room in any way you want. You're free to do whatever you like, so long as you don't hurt yourself or each other. And try to keep the cursing to a minimum. I understand if it's a habit, but please make an attempt. Make no promises, bro, Yaba replied. We understand, brother. Thank you. G replied. Inu rushed forward and hugged her brother. Thank you, big brother. Izuku took a breath and took a second to appreciate the wholesome cuteness of this scene, before kneeling down and hugging them back. You don't need to thank me. Just doing my job. And with that, Izuku took his leave. The girls looked at each other and immediately converged. Seems like was have a pretty reliable big brother, G said. He's really cool. Inu said, her eyes sparkling. Yeah, can't believe we had a rich brother this whole time and that shitty old man never told us. Yaba scowled. I can't believe we're ants. G brought up, with a curious expression. Just kinda weird, huh? Knock knock knock. Greetings. Kiba shouted from the other side of the door. Please allow us entry into your domain. Translation, can we come in? Fu asked alongside her. The girls looked at each other and nodded before Ji responded. Yeah, sure. Slam. Welcome. Kiba said after slamming their door open. You must be our aunts. I do hope you don't mind if we don't call you auntie. Please don't. All three girls said simultaneously. Good. We've come to show you around and introduce you to your new home. Kiba said. You've come to do that. I've come to make sure you don't do anything stupid. Fu added. Well, thanks, Yaba said, before crossing her arms. So, what's there to do in this place? Kiba smirked. A lot. Chapter 152, Trifecta. Do we really have to do this? Inu asked. Currently, the Cerberus sisters were in the training room, facing off against Kiba, who was staring them down confidently. Of course we do. I want to see just how strong those O.P.C.S are. Yaba smirked as she cracked her knuckles. I'm also curious. Brother said they were dangerous, I want to see how careful we should be. Ji said, her neutral expression not wavering. You don't think we'll lose, do ya, sis? Yaba asked, raising an eyebrow. It's not that, I just don't think Big Brother would want us to hurt his kids. Inu admitted. Oh. More confident than I expected. Kiba punched her palm, creating a very light shock wave effect. Alright, I want a good clean fight. Try not to kill each other. Fu said. If anyone gets too injured, the match is over. Got it? We accept, Ji said. Your terms are accepted, Kiba said, throwing her cloak to the side. Great, you can start clobbering each other now. Fu signaled. Go. As soon as Fu gave the word, Kiba rocketed toward the girls and headed right to Yaba. Yaba's eyes widened as she saw Kiba rush towards her at incredible speeds. Holy sure dash. Slam. Kiba's shoulder tackled Yaba, hitting her right in the chest, sending her flying at the wall, so hard it caused blood to fly out of her mouth. Sis. Inu cried out in shock and concern, but this was a mistake, as when she looked towards her sister, Kiba came running. Pow! Slam! Kiba punched Inu's sides, sending her flying at another wall. Aga! Inu cried out in pain as she hit the wall and slid down, spitting up blood all the while. Ji didn't have the same issue reacting, and she let out a stream of fire from her mouth, aimed right at Kiba. Kiba dashed to the right, avoiding the attack as it hit the floor where she had stood. She then ran around the jet of flames and landed a mean right hook right on Ji's cheek. Crack! Ack! Ji cried as her neck cracked, multiple bones in her face breaking on contact with Kiba's attack, as she was sent flying into the wall, right next to Yaba. Ack, fuck! Yaba cried, as she pulled herself up, and wiped the blood away from her mouth. Shit, she hits hard. You think? Ack! Ji grunted, as she snapped her neck back into place, and let her regeneration fix her up. Brother wasn't kidding when he said they were dangerous. I think I would have died if it wasn't for our regeneration. Now that you've tasted my power, do you yield? Kiba asked, giving them a smug look. Inu gave her a fearful look. Maybe dash. Not a chance. Yaba interrupted her sister, before putting her hand on Ji's shoulder, taking a deep breath, and then unleashing a massive wave of fire from her mouth. Kiba jumped out of the way of the much larger flame attack, only to be caught in another attack, as Ji unleashed her own flames from her mouth. Ack! Kiba grunted, as she was engulfed in fire. It wasn't as strong as Netsa's flames, but it still hurt like heck, and it rent her naked as her clothes were burned away. Kiba rushed through the flames at top speed, and grabbed Yaba and Ji's heads, before smashing them together, breaking their focus and stopping their attack. Ow! Ow! The two didn't even get a chance to recover, before Kiba grabbed their hair, and smashed their heads against the wall. Slam! 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 Kiba continued slamming the two's heads against the increasingly bloodied wall until suddenly she felt two arms wrap around her stomach. Thud! Inu had come up from behind and suplexed Kiba, slamming her head into the hard metal floor. Ow! Kiba winced before Inu kicked her in the face, sending her rolling across the room. Ow! 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 Slam! Ow! Kiba groaned as she smacked face first into the opposite wall. Are you two okay? Inu asked her sisters as she pulled their flattened faces off the bloody wall. This was a mistake. Ji answered as she and Yaba quickly started regenerating. Is that you throwing in the towel? Fu asked from the sidelines. Not a chance. Yaba growled before she turned around and unleashed another fire breath attack at Kiba, who was back on her feet. Kiba rolled out of the way, barely dodging the attack in time, before rushing towards the three girls. She was about to strike Yaba in the side of her face, but Ji came between them just in time and caught the punch in both hands. Slam! Gah! Ji grunted as she planted her feet down on the ground as much as she could, but Kiba's strength was overwhelming her and pushing her back, even though she was only using one arm. Kiba raised her other arm ready to strike Ji, but Yaba leapt forward and grabbed that arm, pulling it in the opposite direction. Gah! Ereg! Yaba struggled to hold Kiba's fist back. I can't do this for long. Just as Kiba was about to wrench her arm free, Ji unwrapped her tail from her waist and used its snake head to bite Kiba's leg. Ow! Kiba grunted before glaring at Ji. If that's how you want to play it. Kiba then grabbed hold of both girls and raised them into the air before spinning around as fast as she could. Ugh! Ugh! Ji groaned as she tried not to get sick from spinning so fast. Gonna hurl! Yaba shut her mouth as she tried to fight down the urge to vomit. Be gone! Kiba shouted as she let go, launching both girls to opposite sides of the room. Bunk! The two girls slammed into the metal walls once more, before falling to the ground, dizzy and sick to their stomachs. Ha! Whoa! Kiba grabbed her head. She wasn't immune to motion sickness either, and after coming to a sudden stop, now it was her turn to hold down her lunch. Whoosh! And then immediately, she was bathed in flame from Inu's fire breath. Ow! 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 Ow-wah-wah! Kiba hissed as the flames assaulted her once more. Kiba rushed towards Inu and tackled her, squishing her against a wall so hard it caused blood to fly out of her mouth. Aha! Inu cried out in pain as she crumbled to the floor. Ha! Ha! Egg! Kiba grunted as she wiped off sweat that was dripping from every pore in her body before falling to one knee. Meanwhile, Fu looked over the room at all four of the girls. Ji and Yaba were both struggling to get up and not throw up thanks to the extreme dizziness. Inu was still on the floor, while her wounds had healed. The pain was still there. And Kiba was covered in small burn marks, sweating like there was no tomorrow, and definitely overheated. Alright, that's it, Fu called. That battle's over. Wah! No, I can still, bluff. Yaba couldn't finish her objection, as suddenly she started vomiting all over the floor. Yeah, we're done. Ji groaned. I don't want to fight anymore. Inu cried. Normally I wouldn't give up so fast. Kiba panted. But I'll make an exception for you. Fu sent out some of Kaiosei's tendrils and grabbed the Cerberus sisters, but not Kiba, as her body was simply too hot. Alright Kiba, let's head to the new nurse. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX eyes, as Vera hit Kiba with a flamethrower, in the middle of the medbay. This continued for a couple of minutes until eventually, Vera let her finger off the trigger, and Kiba was revealed from under the flames, now completely free of burns, and 100% refreshed. Aha! So cool. Kiba felt like she'd been smothered in snow, in the best possible way. What the fuck? Yaba just said, too stupefied to say anything else. Little girls should not be cursing. Vera lightly scolded, as she set her flamethrower in her trunk, before taking out a jackhammer. Now let's heal her head and back. Yeah, her quirk basically makes it so she can make her actions do the reverse of what they're supposed to, Fu explained. So she can heal you with weapons and stuff. Interesting, Ji said, taking a close look as Vera started hammering away at Kiba's body. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr something fierce. Need food. Now. Yaba groaned as she clutched her stomach. We had to regenerate so much, we used up so much energy, Ji explained while she also clutched her stomach. Guess I'll take you guys to eat while Kiba's doing this. Fu mused, before looking at the clock. Dad should be making food already, so let's just head down. Follow me. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Izuku looked down at his three sisters eating their hamburger steak and fries, noting how all three of them ate completely differently. Yaba ate similarly to how Yami ate when he first arrived, in the way one would expect a caveman to eat. Violently tearing apart her food with her teeth and hands, not bothering to use her utensils at all. Ji was a bit more civilized in that she actually used her utensils, but didn't seem to care about any form of etiquette. She would cut her food into huge chunks that would just barely fit in her mouth, before shoving it in there and chewing. Lastly, Inu ate like someone would expect a person to eat, cutting her food into small chunks before eating it. But despite being so different, they did share some similarities. Two in particular. 1, they all had a look of pure bliss on their face, and 2, they were all eating as fast as possible. "Sure good," Yaba said through the food in her mouth, as a single tear went down her cheek. Ji moaned. "Big brother, this is amazing." Inu shouted, before immediately getting back to eating. Izuku smiled, it was always nice to hear someone enjoy his cooking. "I'm glad you like it. It's not much, but it's probably miles better than whatever cheap stuff that man fed you." "Yow damn right," Yaba said with a full mouth. "Please don't speak with your mouth full." Izuku sighed, before pulling out a napkin and whipping Yaba and Ji's mouths. "And try not to get too much food on the floor. We don't have a janitor yet." Inu stopped, before giving Izuku a confused look. "Then who's cleaning the training room?" Izuku winced. "Normally, whoever makes the mess cleans it up, but there's been a change in plan due to special circumstances." XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Sori thought, as she pulled bits of flesh off the training room wall and put them into a bag. Because I have to do this, as part of my community service, and father isn't cruel enough to make me do this alone. Yonda told her, as she furiously scrubbed the blood off another wall. And since you're an adult, who most of the time isn't doing anything, it's only natural that father would ask you to do this. That's not fair. Sori pouted. Just because you got punished, I get punished. You're an employee, this isn't a punishment, this is your job. Yonda deadpanned. Now less complaining and more working. I have to clean Esper's litter box after this, and that's somehow worse than this. Oh yeah, litter box, I used one of those once. Sori reminisced. Did not end well. Yonda paused for a second, as the image of that forced its way into her mind, making her shiver in disgust. She then looked over to the Blee with a looking of longingly. If only I could use this to clean my brain. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX brother, and looking around at all the kids who were eating there as well. Man bro, you really do have a crap ton of kids, Yada said, as she popped a fry into her mouth. Yeah, and I'm just going to keep getting more and more, Izuku said proudly. It's a hard job, but it's worth it for all this. Izuku looked over all the children gathered. eating, talking, laughing. Enjoying life. This was why he loved his job. Very impressive brother, Ji said, as she continued eating. By the way, what is your quirk? Izuku went stiff. Yeah, you never told us, bro? Yada inquired casually. Is it something like your mom's or like that bastard? Izuku sighed and took a deep breath. It's neither. I'm quirkless. Yada's and Inu's eyes went wide, while Ji looked mildly surprised. That's... Yada didn't really know what to say here. She'd never met a quirkless person before, and it was just so weird to think of someone not having a quirk. Izuku's expression sunk. I understand if you're disappointed. We're not disappointed. Inu shouted quickly, seeing her brother's mood drop. She wanted to ease his mind as much as she could. We were just surprised. Yeah, you're still cool bro, quirks aren't everything. Yada reassured him. You're rich, you're nice, you can cook, who cares if you don't have a quirk? I honestly don't really care. Ji shrugged. Izuku gave them a relieved smile. I'm glad you think so. Some people don't really like the quirkless all that much. Well, bro, we told ya, if anyone has an issue with you, they can take it up with us, Yaba told him confidently. It doesn't matter if you have a quirk when you have 3 badass sisters. Izuku laughed. I guess so. Thanks, I feel much better. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 28. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.